If you've been learning French for any amount of time, you've probably noticed that spoken French isn't just written French spoken out loud. Sadly, this means that some of the French that you've learned at school isn't really used in everyday conversations. For example, we never use le passé simple. Sorry to those of you who spent many hours memorizing conjugation tables. Let me explain with examples of what to use instead. C'est parti! So, you will probably never need to use it. Le passé simple is too formal for emails, letters, internet writings, and most of all, for everyday spoken French like real conversations. And I want to help you find confidence for these real situations. It is the point of all my lessons and all my programs like the 30-Day French Challenge, where you will get a daily practice of real everyday French with colloquial dialogues and vocabulary and discussions of French culture each morning for 30 days. The next one is starting soon, so you can check out the link right below. So, anyway, what do we use in everyday life instead of le passé simple? Well, we use le passé composé, of course. You probably at least heard about that tense when learning French at school. It is called composé because it is made of two parts. We have avoir, to have in the present tense, or sometimes être, to be for some verbs, and then le participe passé, le participe passé, past participle. For instance, elle a chanté is she sang. It's kind of built like the present perfect in English. She has sung, except it simply means in French, she sang. Okay, now I can hear you say, wait a minute, Géraldine. Le passé composé looks way more complicated. Is it more regular than le passé simple at least? And the answer is, well, barely. On the one hand, you have to learn the past participles of verbs. For example, chanter that we just saw for sung, or manger for eaten. Remember this one, okay? Or parti for left. The past participle of partir, to leave. Remember this one as well. Some of them can be quite irregular, and there's some special rules on top of it, of course, because it's French. On the other hand, you probably already know the conjugation of avoir and être in the present tense. And if you don't, it's absolutely fine. You will find them in the blog post for today's lesson. Check out the link below the video. This is where you will find the full written lesson. You'll also find the rules for le passé composé and everything about l'imparfait, another very useful tense of the past. Today, I want to skip ahead and practice together. Let's have some fun with French grammar. You can practice with me right now at home as you're watching this video behind your screen. Let's get used to hearing some passé simple so that you can understand what is happening when they use it in formal French. But let's also practice le passé composé together so you can become more confident in the everyday spoken French that we actually speak in real conversations. Let's start with a very simple phrase. Elle mangea. Elle mangea. It is le passé simple. Repeat after me. Elle mangea. Elle mangea. Good. Yes, if we want to dig into pronunciation, you might wonder why there is a silent E in there, and that's a good question. It's there to remind you that you use it as a soft sound, as in giraffe, and not a hard one, as in gift. Elle mangea. Elle mangea. Elle mangea. So what do you think it means? You have 5 seconds to think about an answer. It simply means she ate, as in elle mangea du fromage, she ate some cheese. But we would never say this in everyday spoken French. How would you say this in le passé composé? Think about it for around 10 seconds. We would use elle, of course. elle. And then avoir in the present, and then the past participle for manger. And we mix that together and we get yes, elle a mangé, she ate, elle a mangé. Elle for she, a for avoir in the present, and manger for the past participle, remember?
Elle a mangé?
Now let's practice together with the verb être, to be. Let's take for instance, je fus timide, I've been shy, or I used to be shy. How would you say that in everyday spoken French? You might already have the answer, or maybe you need a refresher on past participles. This one for être is été. And yes, by the way, it is exactly like l'été summer. So our sentence is j'ai. J'ai, we have je and ai for avoir that become j'ai. Été, the past participle of être, été, and timide for shy. J'ai été timide, I've been shy, or I used to be shy. Let's jump to our third sentence for practice now. How would you write in le passé simple the sentence you wrote a letter? You wrote a letter. Here we are going to use écrire for to write. Écrire. It is irregular. What do you think the passé simple conjugation looks like for tu? Take a guess if you don't know, but try to say it out loud anyway. It will really help you face the difficulty of this tense. Did you do it? Okay, then it is tu écrivis une lettre. You wrote a letter. Tu écrivis une lettre. That's le passé simple. How would you say that in le passé composé? It is quite straightforward. The past participle for écrire is simply écrit, written with a silent T at the end, écrit. So it makes tu as écrit une lettre. You wrote a letter. Tu as écrit une lettre. You can also pause the video and try the same exercise with the verb rédiger, to edit, to write instead of écrire, because this one is just like manger. You will find the answer in the blog post, but for now we need to practice some verbs with être. For instance, we have the verb partir, which is to leave. Partir, as in nous partons, we are leaving, nous partons in the present tense. What do you think the conjugation of that sentence, nous partons, is in le passé simple that you probably learned at school? Once again, I am giving you around 5 seconds, or you can even pause the video if you need to think about it longer, or to take a wild guess. Do you have it? Okay, it is nous partîmes, we left, as in?
Nous partîmes 500, mais par un prompt renfort. Et nous nous vîmes 3000 en arrivant au port.
How would we say that in le passé composé though? Do you remember the past participle of partir? We've seen it together earlier, remember? It is parti, parti, parti. But there is one more thing there. This verb uses être instead of avoir for its passé composé. So what do you think it looks like with nous? Yes, it is nous sommes partis, we left. Nous sommes is simply the present conjugation for we are. And more importantly, you can notice that parti has a silent S here at the end. Why? Because it is in the plural, and this is the special rule of le passé composé. For the few verbs that use être instead of avoir, the past participle agrees with the subject. Oh, and by the way, in real everyday spoken French, we would not use nous at all. Instead, we would say on est parti, we left with the informal pronoun for we, which is on est parti. Let's practice the same idea with vous now. It's the plural you in French. Le passé simple is vous allâtes au marché. Vous allâtes au marché. You went to the market with the verb aller, to go. The passé simple with nous and vous always sounds quite weird to a French person. Even for me, saying that to you now in a lesson is really awkward. Why? Because we mostly find the passé simple for narration, like in novels and fairy tales, for example, and mostly at the third person, like he or they. But the characters themselves don't use it often. So how would you say that vous allâtes au marché, which is really awkward, in everyday passé composé instead? Remember, be careful, it uses être again. Yes, it is vous êtes allé au marché. You went to the market. Vous êtes allé au marché. Or if there is only women in the group, we would add a silent E, an E in French, to make the past participle feminine because it has to agree with the subject. Vous êtes allé au marché, but the pronunciation is exactly the same. Aller here agrees with the subject and becomes plural and or feminine or masculine because aller uses être instead of avoir in its passé composé. And the same thing happens with elles, the feminine they with the verb aller, to go. For example, elles allèrent au marché. They went to the market, they visited the market. How would you say that in le passé composé? Elles allèrent au marché. Once again, we use être, so it makes, can you guess? Elles sont allées au marché. Elles sont allées au marché. Here I do la liaison between sont and aller. Elles sont allées au marché. We simply use être with the plural they, and the past participle aller simply becomes aller EES to become plural and feminine. Finally, before reviewing what we've seen today, let's try our hand at one last sentence. Ils voulurent déménager. Ils voulurent déménager. They wanted to move, to live somewhere else. How would you say that in le passé composé? Here, vouloir, that means to want, uses avoir for its passé composé, and it becomes voulu in the past participle. Try to say your answer out loud. Did you guess? Yes, it is ils ont voulu déménager. They wanted to move. Ils ont voulu déménager. As we saw, le passé simple is actually an important part of formal written French. But it is not the language of spoken French. So you can learn about le passé simple in school to learn how to read French books or plays, and it's great. But you can also forget all about it, skip the conjugation tables, and talk directly to French people to have real conversations. The important idea behind all that is that, simply put, written French and informal everyday spoken French can sometimes be seen as two completely different languages altogether. But let's recap what we saw today. How would you say these sentences in le passé composé? Je fus horrible. I was horrible. Can you guess? It is j'ai été horrible. Tu écrivis une lettre. Can you guess? Tu as écrit une lettre. For you wrote a letter. Elle mangea un gâteau. She ate a cake. What is it in le passé composé? It is elle a mangé un gâteau. Nous partîmes, for we left. What is it in le passé composé? It is nous sommes partis. Nous sommes partis. Vous allâtes au marché. Ooh, this one is weird. Vous allâtes au marché. You went to the market. It is vous êtes allés au marché. Vous êtes allés au marché. And at last, ils voulurent changer. They wanted to change. Can you guess? Ils ont voulu changer. Ils ont voulu changer. Yay! Congratulations! And now, congratulations! You can rewatch this lesson if you want to see if you can remember all the answers, or you can keep improving your everyday spoken French with another lesson of Comme Française, like the one where I tell you why you should never say mon ami in French. click on your screen right here to keep learning with your next lesson. À tout de suite, I will see you in the next video.